Not yet.
Thank you.
It's now 5:31 PM, and I would like to call the July 14th regular meeting of the Board of Education to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Booker. Mr. Herrera.
Here.
Mrs. Hope.
Here.
Ms. Mayville. Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Here.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Here.
Mr. Zickert.
Here.
Do I have a motion and a second to go into closed executive session regarding section 2, heading C, exception sub number 1 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the appointment, employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of a public body or legal counsel for the public body, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal.
So moved.
Second.
Member Houck made the motion and Member Herrera seconded the motion to go into executive session. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hope.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. It is now 5:32 PM and we are in closed executive session.
Wait a minute, we got to turn the camera.
Thank you.
Not big of a party this month.
I miss all the red. That was a good look.
My favorite color.
It is now 6:40 PM and we are out of closed executive session. At this time, we'll reconvene the regular meeting of the Board of Education with the pledge to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Booker.
Here.
Mr. Herrera.
Here.
Mrs. Hope.
Here.
Ms. Mayville. Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Here.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Here.
Mr. Zickert.
Are there any items on the agenda that any members of the board would like to amend or move? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of the Board of Education on July 14th, 2022 as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda on July 14, 2022 as presented.
Member Zickert made the motion and Member Booker seconded the motion to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education on July 14th, 2022 as presented. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zickert.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mrs. Hope.
Aye.
Ms. Mayville. I'm sorry, Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. At this time, members of the public and employees of District 100 who submitted comments via email will be read, and those attending in person may make public comments. Currently, we did not receive any comments via email. This is a reminder that this is a professional business meeting, and as such, all attendees from board members to speakers to public attendees are reminded to conduct themselves professionally and refrain from the use of profanity, unprofessional language, and/or verbal or personally directed attacks. Verbal comments from the public are restricted to those being delivered during an individual's public comment as indicated on the board agenda. Unsolicited verbal comments, outbursts, and profanity and physical disruptions directed at board members of the Board of Education, the superintendent, administrators, and/or audience members is not allowed and will not be tolerated. If such an occurrence occurs, a verbal warning will be given. And if an individual is identified as a continued disruption during the board meeting, the individual or individuals may be asked to leave the meeting. Per board policy 2230, the board must allow a minimum of 30 minutes of public comment and a 20-minute minimum total length of any time for any one subject. If we reach 30 minutes on any given topic this evening, I may request an end to public comment. In order to give the maximum number of people an opportunity to speak, please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. As I said before, we do not have anyone who has sent emails previously, but we do have 3 people signed up to speak in person. The first is David Paul Smith. And he will be speaking on SB 818.
You know, honestly, I kind of wanted to go last because I'm better at adding cleanup. I work about 52 hours a week in the community, just scheduled. I start off my week knowing I put 52 hours a week on the mental health board. I run the B1 food pantry. We're the church right across the street over yonder. The last thing I wanted to do tonight was attend another meeting. God bless you all for standing and doing this. I don't care for these kind of meetings. Mine usually take place in shorts on the back porch because that's where I prefer to talk to people. But I do feel like there are times, and I just talked to the new school superintendent a few weeks ago, and we had a very cordial conversation. Daniel Weisman and I used to play pickleball together all the time. I'm very invested in this community. I've been here about 7 years. But I do feel like there's a time where you got to kind of stand up and start doing some things. I'm not a political guy. You can go through my Facebook. I don't support one candidate over another. I think our present mayor got a little miffed that I let the other mayor come to our food pantry, and that was as political as I got because it's just not my thing. I don't think that it wins souls to the kingdom of God. I don't think it changes people's lives. I love psychology and psychiatry and do a ton of marriage counseling, all sorts of things like that. But I believe, because I'm a pastor and that's what I do, that nothing brings ultimate change except a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And I get it that not everybody's in that place with me, but just so you know where I stand on these sorts of things. The thing that bothers me in the direction of things like SB 818 are taking us is that we are sexualizing children. We are making sex way more important than it actually is. I have been married for 27 years. I've had sex at least a couple times a week that whole time, right? Except for vacations here and things like that. And it's awesome, and it's wonderful, and it's beautiful, and I love it with my wife. But I've never once had to sit down and tell my kids how it went with her or explain my sexuality to them, even as their dad, right? Let them find their own way. I talked about it, I answered questions they have, and I have 3 boys who've grown up, adjusted wonderfully. They're not out of the house yet, but I blame the real estate market for that. We tried, right? But I think even, I am pro-science as a pastor, and I feel like when you come to this place where even before puberty, you're starting to try to get kids to figure out who they are sexually, that doesn't work. Scientifically, it doesn't work. We have kids in our church all the time, and listen, I am dealing with the brokenness that especially teenagers are going through right now. I mean, I don't think I have a teenager in my church that's not sexually active, or I have had to sit down with parents to talk about where they're at and where they're going and why you save some things for different parts of your life. And that, I really do think we're telling them it's more important than it is. And the problem is that when you start before puberty, right, they don't have any idea. I mean, you guys remember being 8 and 10 years old, right? I didn't care about girls. They were stinky. They were terrible. My sister would sit on my back and put me in a hammerlock because she hit her growth spurt before I did. And until I got bigger than her, she gave me the business end of all the wrestling matches, right? And one day I was bigger than her, and then one day I noticed girls, and then one day that sort of thing blossomed, and I became the person I am. And eventually I found my wife, and that was awesome. And there's a verse in Proverbs that says, "Do not awaken love until it so desires." And that's what I always tell people. There's going to be a time and a place for that. I don't feel like 8 years old is that time. I don't feel like 10 years old is that place. And I feel like if we can just let them be kids a little bit longer, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? I don't know, right, standing up here. I mean, I'm not going to take up an offering or give an altar call or anything like that. I don't know that I have a level of relationship to speak into your life in a way that you would hear what I have to say. But in the off chance that you do hear the heart of a dad and of a pastor and somebody who really cares about this community, kids be kids.
Thank you. Next, we have Kendra Carter speaking on SB 818.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm addressing learner outcomes behind SB 818 that Governor Pritzker approved last fall in 2021. These national sexual education standards will make Illinois the first state in the nation to offer a broad-based program of a highly suspect nature. The public has the right to know what students are expected to master after receiving this instruction. All language used comes directly from the ISBE website. So in grades K through 2, students will identify different kinds of families: nuclear, single parent, blended, intergenerational, cohabitating, adoptive, foster, same gender, interracial. They will define gender, gender identity, and gender role stereotypes. They will list medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals. In grades 3 through 5, students will explain common human sexual development and the role of hormones, romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, timing of puberty onset. They will describe the role hormones play in the physical, social, cognitive, and emotional changes during adolescence, and the potential role of hormone blockers on young people who identify as transgender. They will define and explain differences between cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, I don't even know what these things are. Gender non-binary, gender expansive, and gender identity. They will explain that gender expression and gender identity exist along a spectrum and differentiate between sexual orientation and gender identity. In grades 6 through 8, students will define vaginal, oral, and anal sex. They will define sexual identity and explain a range of identities related to sexual orientation: heterosexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay, queer, two-spirit, asexual, pansexual. They will list at least 4 methods of contraception that are available without a prescription: abstinence, condoms, emergency contraception, and withdrawal. And in grades 9 through 12, students will differentiate between sex assigned at birth, gender identity, and gender expression. Identity factors that impact the risk of unintended pregnancy and potential transmission of STDs, including HIV, from a variety of sexual behaviors, including vaginal, anal, and oral sex. They will define reproductive justice, and explain its history and how it relates to sexual health. As school board members and district administrators, are you okay with these new standards? Are your teachers 100% on board with this updated best practice instruction? District 100 has stated that they are offering parents the right to opt out of these classes. Are parents made aware of this? Are opt-out forms available at each of the schools? Are there alternatives in place for students who choose to not participate in these classes? And have parents been notified that they can peruse the curriculum to make a wise decision? What about the staff? Can they opt out of teaching this stuff? There's a vast difference between covering the basics and delving into areas that schools have no business in. And in my mind, there's only one word to describe the purpose of this curriculum, and that is grooming. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Next, we have Leslie. And I know you spoke last month, Ruthie, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't want to mispronounce it. I apologize.
Thank you for hearing me. I just want to make one brief comment about the SB 818, and my comments are more general. But in looking over that, there was one thing that jumped out at me, and that was the way that they required the teachers and the presenters to avoid, and this was the word that they used, heteronormalization. So what I want to convey to you is I was very disturbed by the fact that what they want to do is to avoid the normalization of heterosexuality. That's very concerning to me, and it should be concerning to all of us. But to go on to my other comments here, I recognize that this is most likely be left and rejected once I'm done, but I care enough about our youth that I'm going to say this anyways. I'm going to speak truth no matter what. And I honestly believe that the school boards in this whole educational system, I'm talking nationally, has been weaponized. Okay. I believe that most of the people who work for it don't even realize it. And I think that in your attempt to educate, you're actually a crafted tool being wielded as a weapon for the destruction of our country. We're weakening this generation. We're weakening them. We really are. Academia has been influenced by godless communistic ideology for decades, and the educational system has always been the preferred weapon for communists to brainwash a generation in order to weaken a nation. And I'm going to repeat what I said last week, that Stalin once said that education is a weapon of which the effect will be determined by the hands that wield it. And Lenin likewise said that give me just one generation of youth and I will transform the whole world. This is what we're witnessing, people. I sincerely hope that you're not so indoctrinated by ideologies that our enemies have injected into our textbooks for decades that you're incapable of reasoning. You know, not just the SB 818. I'm talking about the CRT. I'm talking about so much stuff that turns kids away from their foundational truths. Who we are as a people in this country. We are not systematically racist. In your attempt to stay afloat by teaching us absurd, if you choose to go forward with this kind of indoctrination, this sexualizing our children, in your attempt to stay afloat by teaching this stuff, this garbage to our children, under the direction of sold out politicians, we will begin to remove our children and the tax dollars that go with them. I homeschooled 30 years ago, and then we put into college and what have you, and I've got fabulous, wonderful, successful kids. This will be done, and it's this movement is growing. And you know, we'll shoulder the cost of their education via private schools or home tutoring. Churches will become involved. We are organizing. We are truly organizing. And they will become involved, opening their doors to co-ops and such, and we will progress to regaining control of the House and Senate this fall. We'll lobby and we'll get legislation passed that will give us control of our tax dollars. We will. And via vouchers or something similar, we will get control again. And you are seeing the beginning of a movement. I must tell you, I was with a group today, probably 30 families. That was just, they're doing a beautiful job with their children. And this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. We've had it. And, you know, what will be left for you is an empty, hollowed out shell of the system without any dollars, because we will take them. And we will educate our children. We will protect our children. We will protect them from the sexualization. We will protect them from, you guys, the CRT curriculum is creating the issue of racism. We are not racist as a nation. This is the best nation in the world. You go over to Africa, you go over to some of these other countries, and I have been there. And you find out what racism really is. You know, we afford everybody a chance here. And to try to raise these kids to think anything different is almost treason. And so I close with that. Thank you.
Allison, do they know that they should give their number or contact information?
Mhm. Kendra's listening.
If you would like a contact back, anyone who gives their phone number and or email, we have an opportunity to contact you. So anybody that would like to, that didn't include it, feel free to after come up and include it.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything they would like to address the board with? Okay, at this time, public comment will be closed and we'll be moving on to our Board of Education Committee reports. Business Services Committee meeting was June 9th. Mr. Bucher, are there any items that you would like to point out or bring to the board's attention?
No, they're pretty much in the notes or the minutes. I think we're gonna go over some of them tonight, the fleet program. Right?
I did see in your notes that there was some preliminary discussion in regards to safety and what could be done in the future. Could you provide maybe a little bit of just
Sure. After
quick
last month's safety review that we had the discussion at our meeting that we just want to make sure that, you know, we look at what we're doing and making sure if there's any way that we can be safer or what can we do, because you should always be trying to be better at whatever we're doing, and the safety of our kids and our teachers are important. So we're going to continue that conversation and look at other ways and that we can, you know, make it better.
okay, so that'll be an ongoing discussion at the business services going forward.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Bucher?
Yeah, I just wanted to say really quick, I thought a lot about that safety discussion and have been for the last month or so, or less than a month, but close. Is that I do think safety has to be the top priority. I think we can make a lot of reasons why we couldn't do it, why we can postpone stuff. That in my world, that safety is the number one priority.
We're here for academics and keep the kids safe. And that's why I brought up it. Joanne and I had talked about it several times prior. And I think we're remiss in today's world if we're not doing, or at least looking at any way we can be better in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Bucher. Next, are there any items on the consent agenda any members of the board would like to take out for separate consideration?
I think we need to do the personnel report.
I would like to take number 11, destruction of closed session recordings separately, please. Member Whitcomb requested number 3, personnel report removed and taken separately. And Mrs. Reed Nemick requested number 11, destruction of closed session recordings removed and taken separately. I have a motion to approve consent agenda items number 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 as presented?
Motion to approve agenda items 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, I'll take out 3. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 as presented.
Second.
Member Herrera made the motion and Member Whitcomb seconded the motion to approve consent agenda items 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 as presented. Any discussion? I would like to say thank you for the work that the Business Services Committee did do in regards to the Enterprise Fleet Program and vetting that and bringing that information to the board. I personally think that it is a good idea to look at that. And, you know, if we can save money in the long run, I think that that's always a place to be looking. So I appreciate that and thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mrs. Hout.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Okay, do I have a motion regarding consent agenda item number 3, personnel report?
So we have to craft it, right? I would make a motion to accept the report with the exception of the removal of the transfer of, I gotta get it right, sorry. I'm in the wrong place at the top, sorry. Accept the report with the exception of the transfer of Michelle, somebody help me with the last name. Ackland, which would be pulled by administration for further discussion and being addressed at a later date.
Mrs. Whitcomb made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Whitcomb made the motion and Member Zickert seconded the motion to accept consent agenda item number 3, personnel report, as presented with the exception of removal or removing the transfer of Michelle Eklund from the report to be voted on at a future date. Any discussion? Dr. Ady, I believe that this will be coming back to us at the next available meeting. It's not anything that
Yeah, it's
is
just a
necessarily a problem. It's
semantics, right? I
it's
dotting
just
and T
something-
crossing, yeah.
Just something being
Yeah.
amended.
Yeah.
Got it. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mrs. Hout.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Do we have a motion to approve consent agenda item number 11, destruction of closed session recordings as presented? Hearing none. Move on.
Well, do we just need, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I don't know why we're not, I guess.
Your motion is to accept that presented.
Yeah,
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Member Hauk made the motion and Member Herrera seconded the motion to approve consent agenda item number 11, destruction of closed session recordings as presented. Discussion?
why did we pull it aside?
The reason why I requested it is, we have a new superintendent and we have done a lot of things within closed session in regards to employees and some changes and things. And since we don't have to destroy them, we don't need the room, we don't have to destroy them immediately, and we can make that decision in the future. I think that it would be helpful if she or her team needed to go back and be able to listen to things that were discussed. What it would do is it would be all the way back to July of 2020 and forward from being destroyed. We could vote at a later date because once they turn 18 months, we can vote to have
Vote
them
again.
destroyed.
Yeah.
I just think that for the purposes of if she had any question or wanted to go back and listen to anything, even from, that point, I think I would rather wait for her to make a recommendation as to, yep, I'm good, let's go ahead and do this.
I would agree.
I just didn't know.
Right.
Now I do.
So, yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hauk,
No.
Mr. Herrera,
Nope.
Mr. Zickert.
No.
Mrs. Whitcomb,
No,
Mr. Booker,
Nope.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
No. Motion fails. Next, we move on to our roll call action items. Do I have a motion regarding the non-union employee wage increases for the 2022-2023 year as presented by administration?
I will make a motion to approve the non-union employee wage increases set forth by administration.
Second.
Member Hauk made the motion and Member Herrera seconded the motion to approve the non-union employee wage increase for the 22-23 year as presented by administration, including Felix Santiago, Kelly Cooper, Anita Kozel. Sorry, I just ordered her name. Kimberly Jokey, Jana Liston, and Courtney Rackley. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb,
aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have revisions to the Board of Education policies, which were presented last month for first reading. Are there any policies any members of the board would like to take separately? Hearing none, do I have a motion and a second to approve the revisions to the existing Board of Education policies, items number 2 through 7 under roll call action items as presented?
I make a motion that we approve items 2 through 7 revisions to the listed policies as second reading as presented.
Second.
Member Whitcomb made the motion and Member Herrera seconded the motion to approve the revisions to Board of Education policies numbers 2 through 7 under roll call action items as presented. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Herrera.
Aye.
Mr. Zickert.
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Hauk.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye. Motion passes. We have a motion regarding the approval of the regulatory basis engagement.
Motion to approve approval of regulatory basis engagement. Sorry.
Second.
Member Zickert made the motion and Member Herrera seconded the motion to approve the regulatory basis engagement as presented. Any discussion?
I'm glad I'm not involved. I'm just saying, good luck. That's a lot of work.
This is something that we typically, this is something that we typically have to sign each year. And our auditors are the same auditors, they have not changed, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Zickert,
Aye.
Mr. Herrera,
Aye.
Mr. Booker.
Aye.
Mrs. Haut,
Aye.
Mrs. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mrs. Reed Nemick.
Aye, motion passes. At this time, we move on to administration reports. Dr. Ady, do you have anything you would like to highlight under administration reports, school activity reports, a look ahead and or the FOIA log?
Nothing with school activity report to the FOIA log, but just in regard to upcoming events, the second session of summer school is now underway, that goes through the 28th. There's a special meeting in the Board of Education on July 28th. The next business service committee meeting is the second, Boone County Fair, the 9th and 14th. The District 100 staff back to school kickoff picnic is August 19th. And then the next facilities and long range planning committee meeting is August 31st.
And we missed something. First day of school
First day of
is
school.
Oh, and the first day of school is, oh, you asked me that on the spot.
24th. right?
August
24th.
24th, I believe. 24th, correct?
Phone a friend.
Let's call it the 31st and we can all have an extra week.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Ady?
We also wanted to add that the audit field work is taking place next week on Thursday and Friday.
Thank you. Is there anything else that the board would like to discuss at this time? I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, they've already got it.
Member Zickert made the motion and member Herrera seconded the motion to adjourn. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned at 7:12 p.m.